There is a jar of turmeric in your kitchen right now. Maybe you sprinkle it on eggs. Maybe you stir it into warm milk before bed. Maybe someone told you it was good for inflammation, and so you've been adding a pinch here and a pinch there for years. And you feel good about that. You feel like you're doing something right. But I need to tell you something that is going to change the way you use this spice forever. Because for the vast majority of people, and I mean upwards of 95%, that turmeric is passing through your body almost completely unused. The compound inside it that researchers believe may help lower cancer risk, your cells are barely absorbing it. You've been eating it wrong. And today, I'm going to show you how to fix that. I'm Dr. Alan Miller, and after 18 years specializing in senior health and wellness, I've spent a significant portion of that time studying what the research actually says about natural compounds and cancer risk in older adults, and how rarely that research makes its way into plain, usable advice for the people who need it most. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what makes turmeric so powerful against certain cancer pathways, why the way most people consume it renders it nearly useless, and the precise steps, the combinations, the timing, the preparation, that can make this humble spice work the way the science says it should. I'll share what happened when several of my own patients changed how they took turmeric, and I'll give you a clear 5-step protocol you can begin using at your very next meal. Stay until the end, because step 3 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most important one of all. Here's the truth that rarely gets communicated clearly enough. The research on turmeric and cancer risk is genuinely compelling. There are hundreds of peer-reviewed studies examining curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, and its effects on cell behavior, inflammation pathways, and tumor growth. And yet, if you walked into your doctor's office tomorrow and asked about turmeric, you would likely get a polite nod and a vague response. Not because the science isn't there, but because the average clinical appointment gives a physician perhaps 12 minutes with a patient. There is no time to walk someone through the biochemistry of curcumin absorption, fat solubility, and bioavailability. So the conversation doesn't happen. And seniors like you, who are proactive, who are paying attention, who are trying to do everything they can to protect their health, are left with a kitchen spice they're using the wrong way. That ends today. Let's start with what curcumin actually is and why it matters. Turmeric root is a thick, gnarled rhizome, similar in shape to ginger, that has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 4,000 years. When you grind it into that familiar golden orange powder, you're grinding down a root that contains dozens of active plant compounds. But the one researchers are most interested in is curcumin. Curcumin belongs to a class of compounds called polyphenols, and what makes polyphenols remarkable is their relationship with inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is now understood to be one of the primary environments in which cancer cells thrive. It's not the only factor. Cancer is complex, and I want to be clear that nothing cures or prevents cancer outright. But reducing the internal inflammatory environment your cells live in is one of the most important things a person over 60 can do for their long-term health. And curcumin is one of the most studied natural compounds for doing exactly that. Margaret was 68 years old when she first came to see me. She'd had a clean bill of health from her oncologist following a successful early-stage colon cancer treatment 2 years prior. She was doing everything right, walking daily, eating well, managing her stress. She'd read about turmeric and was already adding a teaspoon to her morning smoothie every single day. She believed she was being proactive, and she was. The intention was right. But when I asked her how she was preparing it, she described adding raw turmeric powder to a cold fruit smoothie with no fat and no other spices. I had to gently explain that what she was doing was essentially decorating her smoothie with color. The curcumin was barely making it into her bloodstream. We changed her protocol. Within 6 weeks, Her inflammatory markers on blood work had shifted meaningfully. She cried in my office, not out of fear, but out of relief that something so simple had been waiting for her all along. Here is the core problem, and it's a biological one. Curcumin is extremely poorly absorbed on its own. When you swallow turmeric in its raw form, powder in water, powder in a cold drink, a capsule with nothing else, studies show that very little of it actually crosses into your bloodstream intact. It moves through the digestive tract and exits your body without your cells ever having access to it. This happens for two reasons. First, curcumin is fat-soluble. That means it needs fat to dissolve properly and be transported through your intestinal wall into circulation. Without fat present in the same meal, it has no vehicle. Second, curcumin is rapidly metabolized. Your liver begins breaking it down the moment it enters the bloodstream, reducing the active amount your tissues ever receive. So the question isn't whether turmeric is beneficial. The question is, how do you get it inside your body in a form your cells can actually use? Stay with me here, because this next part is where everything changes. The first mechanism that transforms turmeric from decoration to medicine is black pepper. Inside black pepper, there is a compound called piperine. And piperine does something extraordinary. It temporarily inhibits the liver enzyme that metabolizes curcumin, essentially slowing down the breakdown process long enough for curcumin to be absorbed in much higher quantities. Research published in the journal Planta Medica found that combining curcumin with piperine increased curcumin's bioavailability by 1,900%, nearly 2,000%. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between a compound that does almost nothing and a compound that can actually reach your tissues. A small pinch of freshly ground black pepper, we're talking as little as a quarter teaspoon, is enough to trigger this effect. If you are taking turmeric without black pepper, you are, in practical terms, wasting most of it. Gerald was a 74-year-old retired engineer who came to me with elevated PSA levels and a family history of prostate cancer. His urologist was monitoring him carefully, and Gerald was determined to support his health through every means available. He was already taking a turmeric supplement daily, but it was a basic capsule. No piperine, no fat, nothing else. When I explained the absorption science, Gerald, who had spent 40 years thinking in systems and optimization, immediately understood. He called it an engineering flaw in his delivery system. We switched him to a protocol that included turmeric cooked briefly in olive oil, with black pepper added after heating. His follow-up blood work 3 months later showed a reduction in several inflammatory markers. Gerald sent me a handwritten note. He said, and I'll never forget this, "Doc, I spent 40 years solving problems. I should have known the solution needed a delivery mechanism." The second mechanism is fat. As I mentioned, curcumin is fat-soluble. But not just any fat will do the job equally well. Research suggests that cooking turmeric in a warm, healthy fat, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, or even a small amount of grass-fed butter, allows the curcumin molecules to dissolve into the fat, which then serves as the transport vehicle that carries it through your intestinal wall. This is why traditional Indian cooking has used turmeric sautéed in ghee or oil for centuries. These cultures didn't have peer-reviewed journals. They had generations of observational wisdom, and the science is now confirming what grandmothers in Kerala have known for 1,000 years. The key word is warm. Gently heating turmeric in fat, not deep frying, not boiling, but a gentle sauté for 60 to 90 seconds, helps open up the curcumin molecule and allows it to bind more effectively with the fat. Cold fat does not achieve the same effect. A cold smoothie with a teaspoon of olive oil added is not the same as briefly blooming turmeric in warm oil. The third mechanism, and this is the one I promised you earlier, the one almost nobody talks about, is quercetin. Quercetin is a natural plant compound found in foods like capers, red onions, apples, and green tea. And recent research suggests that quercetin works synergistically with curcumin to amplify its anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer effects in a way that neither compound achieves as well alone. Think of curcumin as a key and quercetin as the mechanism that helps the lock turn. When these two compounds are present in your body at the same time, their combined effect on inflammatory pathways appears to be greater than either one acting independently. The practical takeaway is this: build your turmeric meals around foods that naturally contain quercetin. A golden turmeric soup made with red onions. Turmeric roasted vegetables finished with sliced apple on the side. A cup of green tea alongside a turmeric seasoned dish. This isn't complicated, it's layering. Dorothy was 66 when she was diagnosed with a benign but fast-growing fibroid that her gynecologist wanted to monitor. She came to me asking what she could do nutritionally to support a less inflammatory internal environment. Over the following year, we built a dietary protocol that centered on anti-inflammatory synergy, turmeric with black pepper and olive oil, quercetin-rich foods at most meals, reduced processed sugar, and increased omega-3 fats. At her 12-month follow-up, her gynecologist noted that the growth had slowed substantially. Her oncologist was cautiously optimistic. Dorothy told me that for the first time in a year, she didn't feel like her body was working against her. She felt like she was working with it. That shift, from passive patient to active participant, is what I want for every person watching this video. Now let's talk about dosing and form. How much turmeric do you actually need? And should you use fresh root, powder, or a supplement? The honest answer is that the research varies, but most studies showing meaningful effects used curcumin in amounts equivalent to roughly 500 to 1,000 milligrams per day, which corresponds to approximately 1 to 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder. 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder contains roughly 200 milligrams of curcumin, so you would need about 2 to 3 teaspoons per day, prepared correctly, to approach the lower range of studied doses. This is achievable through food: a turmeric-rich curry, a golden soup, seasoned roasted vegetables, if you're consistent. For those who prefer a supplement, look specifically for formulations that include piperine or are labeled as enhanced bioavailability. Supplements without these features have the same absorption problem as plain powder. And please, before starting any new supplement, talk to your physician. Turmeric can interact with blood thinners and certain medications. Your doctor needs to know what you're taking. This is not optional. It is part of protecting yourself, not undermining it. I want you to take a moment and think about what we've covered today, because it's significant. You have access to a compound, one that costs very little, sits in most grocery stores, and has been consumed by human beings for thousands of years, that research suggests may meaningfully support your body's defenses against cellular damage and cancer risk. And the reason most people aren't getting the benefit isn't lack of access. It's lack of preparation knowledge. You now have that knowledge, and that matters. Because you are at an age where every decision you make about your body, compounding over the years ahead. The choices you make this week, and next month, and into next year, they build on each other. You are not too old to change your outcomes. I have watched patients in their 70s and 80s shift their health trajectories with consistency and the right information. You deserve to be one of them. Here is your 5-step turmeric protocol, starting today. Step 1. Always combine turmeric with a fat. Warm a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil in a pan over low to medium heat, and add your turmeric to the warm oil. Let it bloom for 60 seconds, stirring gently. This is your foundation. Step 2. Always add black pepper. A 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper added to your turmeric preparation is all it takes to unlock the piperine effect. Do not skip this step. Write it on a sticky note and put it on your spice cabinet if you need to. Step 3. Pair your turmeric meal with quercetin-containing foods. Red onions, capers, apples, green tea, or leafy greens, alongside your turmeric dish, will amplify its effects at the cellular level. Step 4. Aim for consistency over quantity. 1 properly prepared teaspoon of turmeric daily, every day, is far more valuable than a large dose taken irregularly. Your body benefits from a sustained, low-grade supply of these compounds. Step 5. Talk to your doctor. Tell your physician what you are doing. Ask whether any of your current medications, particularly blood thinners or anti-inflammatories, require any adjustment or monitoring. Turmeric is powerful, and powerful things deserve to be taken seriously. If you found this video helpful, I want to ask you something specific in the comments below. Have you been using turmeric? And did you know about the black pepper connection? Tell me yes or no, and tell me how long you've been taking it. I read those comments, and I want to know how many of you have been doing this right all along, and how many of you, like Margaret and Gerald, are realizing today that a simple shift could change everything. Share this video with someone you love who uses turmeric. You might be giving them something more valuable than you realize. And in our next video, we're going to look at 5 other foods that work the same way as turmeric, compounds your body can only access if you prepare them correctly. You'll want to see that one.